going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets here, live on our FTN Network YouTube page on iTunes and Spotify. You guys know the drill. Do me a solid, smash the like button, rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. Chris Meaney here hanging out with you on this Friday. We are going to go over last night's game in Nolans. Kind of a boring affair until the end. I was really shocked that the Saints even had a chance to come back and win that football game. It looked like they were just dead in the water early. And it is really tough to watch that Saints offense. It's really tough to watch New Orleans play football offensively. It's just been an absolute struggle for everyone inside the offense. But we're going to go over that game in just a little bit. We got PropGod joining us too a little bit later on. So get your questions in, your start or sit questions. I have a couple touchdown props for you as per usual on a Friday. Get some picks against the spread. We'll talk a little DFS. We also have some just overall props. And I think yesterday was pretty good. We like to hold ourselves accountable. It's not all about patting ourselves on the back. It's just really about the process. So we'll go over a little bit from last night, and then we'll dive into the schedule as we see here. This is a really tough week, right? There's a lot of teams on bye. There's a lot of injuries happening right now. There's a lot of bad football. I think we talked about it earlier in the week, like 32 passing touchdowns last week and 32 interceptions and just 18.4 points average of all the offenses last week. And that was the lowest scoring week since I think it was 2014, 2015. It's been some time. That was from NFL research. So I don't know. Is this good defense, bad offense? Because we kind of saw a little bit of bad offense last night to kick off week 7. We'll go over this. There's a lot of really fun matchups this week, though, right? Detroit and Baltimore. How legit are the Lions? The Lions are cooking. They're one of two teams inside the top 5 in total DVOA, defense and offense, and they got a tough spot here against Baltimore. I like the Lions. They're going to get into them in a little bit. I know they showed me a lot last week on the road. I know a lot has been made of Jared Goff on the home and away splits. I've talked about them a lot here over the past, several months, really. But Jared Goff over the last 16, 17 games, this guy has been elite. He's in the MVP conversation, and if he goes into Baltimore without really a ground game, it does sound like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to return, but no Dave Montgomery. And they beat the Baltimore Ravens, who everybody seems to love. And you got a dual threat quarterback and a playmaker in Lamar Jackson. If Detroit goes in and wins that game, the second game in a row on the road, then, people that are not believing in the Lions may just have to, because they are off to, their best start in years. And if they win this game and they start 6-1, I believe that's the first time that they would have started 6-1 or better since like the 50s. So this is pretty spectacular stuff for Detroit. And then we have Miami and Philadelphia. A really intriguing game there with the Dolphins setting records offensively and the Eagles coming off a loss against the Jets. And we'll see what kind of pressure they can dial up and if they can slow down Mike McDaniel in this offense, because it doesn't seem like anybody can at the moment. A divisional matchup between the Chargers and the Chiefs would be a really good football game. Arizona and Seattle, don't sleep on the Cardinals. They may hang around in that football game, looking to see if Geno Smith can break out. Because he's been struggling so far this season. And then we do honestly have a couple snooze fests, right? Las Vegas and Chicago, the battle of backups and backups, and then Green Bay and Denver. Jordan Love and company coming off the bye, and the Broncos and Jerry Jeudy, where's he at? Cleveland and Indianapolis, probably, an offensive struggle. We'll see Deshaun Watson return to practice in full yesterday. So that's good news. And then the Niners and the Vikings could be entertaining. We're just not going to know, unfortunately, about CMC. Maybe today is a day. I tend to try to go as late as I can on a Friday so we can get the most up-to-date news, because today is the big day when it comes to practice reports. But we may not really know the latest here around the horn. Kyle Shanahan happy with Christian McCaffrey's heavy workload. It's real easy to put a lot on his plate. It does sound like he and Debo have a real possibility of suiting up this week. And if you do have Christian McCaffrey, we'll start there. If you have Christian McCaffrey, of course, you have to have some backup plans. You don't want to take a zero, but you also, you want to wait it out, I think, for CMC. Given the landscape of the running back position, a lot of bad backfields in tough spots like Baltimore up against Detroit, the mess in Arizona. Are we really trusting Zack Evans? We talked about him as a start if you're in a really tough spot. But CMC, You guys don't need me to tell you. He is a game changer. He is, arguably the MVP, fantasy MVP. I know he was picked early, but he's living up to all the expectations. So I would say hopefully you have your bases covered here, whether it's Elijah Mitchell or Mason, or, put CMC on the flex. Maybe you can do Juwan Jennings if there's no Debo Samuel. Maybe you're rolling out, and I'd say obviously KJ Osborne and Addison are owned everywhere, but maybe just it's not pretty, but Cam Akers could be a fallback option. It's probably only 3 or 4 fantasy points. Maybe he finds the end zone for you, a couple grabs or something like that. But CMC is certainly worth waiting for, and we'll see what happens there. Again, leave your starter sit questions. PropGod's in here in just a few moments. I'm going to roll through some of my picks against the spread and some props and some touchdown calls, and then we'll bring in the GOAT himself, and we'll have a couple more picks, and we'll answer some of those questions for you. A friendly reminder, this Saturday, tomorrow, on Channel 87, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, the FTN Fantasy Show, myself, Jake Seeley, and Lauren Carpenter. We will dive into everything. Week 7, take your phone calls, your starter sit questions. Look for that tomorrow. You can listen as well on demand. I think we'll have a link inside the description of this video. If not, I'll post it in there so you can check it out. But we are live tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern up until 11 Eastern, Channel 87 on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. About last night, Chris Olave really let us down. George got him on the board here, so what do we expect? But he did have over 4.5 catches at -130. That was a 2-unit play for us. We needed, just like everybody else, it seemed like we needed another 4 or 5 yards for Chris Olave. The targets were there. The deep shots were there. The longest reception. He gave up on a route. Much has been made of that last night and this morning, watching, Good Morning Football and people talking about it on social media. He did give up on the route, but also it was just an uncatchable pass. It's a little bit of both. The Derek Carr just doesn't seem to be on the same page as some of his weapons. It's really that simple. There seems to be a disconnect. The weapon on this squad does seem to be Taysom Hill. He gets the rushing touchdown. He scores inside the red zone. He's running routes again. He's catching passes. I still like Chris Olave. I would still buy low, where I could. But the offense is really struggling. It hasn't looked good. Man, they showed a stat last night on the broadcast. It was 23 straight drives in a row without a touchdown, which was a streak they broke from the early 2000s. The Saints Nation, they've been blessed, with great offensive squads for years, and Drew Brees and Sean Payton. We had Kamara pretty easily, right? Another like double-digit target game from him, a bunch of catches, over 29.5 receiving yards was pretty. We got that one pretty easily. He had 12 grabs, 91 receiving yards. Olave finishes with 7 catches and 57 receiving yards, so we needed a couple more. But I mean, he had 15 targets, right? Like if I told you guys you would have 15 targets in this game, you would be jumping on the over there. So I still like him overall. Like I said, as a player. Among the leaders in ADOT heading into the week, he was second in terms of his team's air yard percentage. So he is still getting a ton of look. I don't think they'll make a quarterback change. I do believe Carr is better for Olave's game than Taysom Hill would be. But Carr is just, you can't trust him in a Superflex league. They get near the red zone, and it's Taysom Hill coming in. That burns you a little bit. It was nice to see Michael Thomas get his first touchdown of the season. What we said yesterday is he got the touchdown and was just, in terms of a fantasy performance, it turns out to be like his better day because he has a touchdown, but he's still living in the 40 receiving yard range. He has 42 yards on 7 targets. He hauled in 3 of them. A bad drop from Foster Moreau in the end zone. He hauls that in. Maybe that game goes to overtime. But the Saints, again, offensively, it's a struggle to watch them. They made a couple plays defensively, couldn't capitalize. They may need a new kicker here very soon, although he made 3 of them. But the rookie has struggled a little bit. On the Jacksonville side of things, Travis Etienne is turning out to be, on the short list of a league winner. 14 for 53 is not super efficient, but we know how stout this Saints run defense is. But he did have 2 rushing touchdowns, and he's just been a touchdown machine all season long. I wish I owned more of ETN and less of Tank Bigsby. I'm actually still holding on to Tank Bigsby in some spots because I do like this offense. And if anything happens to ETN, it's the next man up. So he's just a guy that I've been stashing where I can. But of course, if you need running back help, you're unfortunately you're not able to hang on to him. And maybe that's not unfortunate at all because he just seems to be wasting away on the bench right now. Christian Kirk at over 4.5 grabs. That one we did have. He held in all 6 of his targets for 90 receiving yards. What a really nice touchdown run he had across the middle of the field, and the speed and the afterburners were on. Poor tackling, but credit to Christian Kirk, who had the TD and the 90 yards. Evan Ingram, 5 for 45, and then ETN hauled in 3 of his 5 targets for 24 yards. Calvin Ridley, that's one we could have did, George, this morning. Calvin Ridley. We'll just put him in place here. Instead of Judy, just think of Ridley.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Hanging around out there. He did have a really nice one-hand grab, which may have gone down as one of the catches of the year if he had his feet. It was really close. He almost had his feet in there with a nice little one hand there. But, man, I'll tell you what, Ridley is not living up to expectations. Clearly, it's easy to say now, but looking back at the week 1 performance when he just balled out, it would have been a great sell-high candidate. Probably could have got a bunch of stuff for Calvin Ridley after that game. You have him, you hang on, you hope things turn around a little bit. This may seem weird to say, but I feel like it won't turn around until Zay Jones is there, because Zay Jones and Kirk were kind of rotating, and Ridley seemed to be on the field a lot, getting a lot of the looks. But it's an offense that's kind of spread out, right? And it doesn't look good at the moment for Calvin Ridley. I have quite a few shares of Calvin Ridley, and it's tough pill to swallow seeing 1 fantasy point from the old boy. Again, it's a bad time to sell. It's not when you want to sell. It's the highs and lows. You got to kind of view this as like the stock market. I get it. You want to get out. Like sometimes you just want to get out and you'll take whatever you can get, but you probably can't get too much, right? And off the top of my head, like I would be looking at like a T Higgins or a Devontae Smith and dudes that have been struggling. I still want wide receiver 2 value for Calvin Ridley. So it may just be a guy that you hang on to for now, and hopefully it turns around. The big surprise for me last night was Trevor Lawrence. I mean, just running around, like 59 rushing yards on 8 carries. Was the first time he ever wore a knee brace, going to high school and college and Clemson, and here in the NFL. He was, I watched him in warm up, and when he was throwing, he was kind of just like, he seemed really ginger on that knee. He didn't want to land on it, certainly. But man, the first play of the game, I think he ran. He had a 26-yard run, which I think was the longest of his career. So he was moving around pretty good. Duval, baby, what injured knee? Kyle Woods in the house. Welcome in. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy to see. Anyways, let's get into the picks against the spread and some props, and we'll get to those questions to see you guys as well. I obviously want to address, so just hang on a few moments here, and we're going to dive into. Let's go with some props here, and we'll start with Cooper Kupp. We got several here. Again, last night was pretty good. Maybe a little bit of a bad beat there with Olave, but we'll try to pick up some steam here. Cooper Kupp. I don't think you guys need me to say too much about Cooper Kupp. Like, I'm going to take anything over probably 98, 99 yards. We have him for over 100 receiving yards in our projections. All he's done in 2 games is go 8 for $118 and 7 for $148, right? We know about Cooper Kupp. When he's on the field, he's just completely unstoppable. The matchup is pretty good. 4th most fantasy points allowed to wide receivers here, the Steelers, in a half-point setting. So we like Cooper Kupp here at over 90.5 receiving yards. Raheem Mostert, I'm taking the rushing and the receiving yard prop combined for Raheem Mostert. I think his rushing yard prop is pretty low as well. It's at 49.5. We know that this Eagles run defense is really strong, but this is just a different beast, man. Like the Mike McDaniel offense and the guys in motion and the double end arounds and quick slants and screens. This Eagles defense is going to have their hands full. I don't think that should be breaking any news. This isn't the same defense as last year. The number 1 pass DVOA defense. I was going to say according to Football Outsiders last year, but now according to FTN Bets and Aaron Schatz, like there's nowhere near the top. They're struggling in the middle of the field. They're lacking talent, safety help in the middle of the field. Tyreek Hill cannot be stopped at the moment. And they've just struggled against like bunch formations and motion, like those kind of concepts. They've struggled dating back to last year. I mean, look at the Super Bowl, look at week 1 against the Pats. They had a lot of bunch formation. Couldn't even handle Kendrick Bourne in that game. So it's a high total game. the reason I'm going with rushing and receiving, just in case they bottle up Raheem Mostert, like just in case he's like, I don't know, like say Tony Pollard last week, where he was not super efficient on the ground, but through the air, he made up for it. That's what I feel like with Raheem Mostert, what he can do here. He's a guy that can haul in 3 or 4 catches. It's not on the board, but I also I have in the tracker, you can't get this number anymore. I put 2 units on it. I think this was a huge mistake by PointsBet at 10.5 receiving yards. That was at -130. The best I'm seeing now is 15.5 for Raheem Mostert. I like the over 2.5 grabs at +110. So if they bottle him up, that's fine. He doesn't get the rushing yards, but if he catches a few passes, I mean, he's got 145 receiving yards on 18 grabs so far this season. He's got like a couple 100-yard games on the ground. So what he can do there. So we have him for over 60 rushing yards and over 20 receiving yards. So quick math, right? Doesn't take too much to add that up. That's 80 combined yards. So 67.5 rushing and receiving yards. I think that there is an edge here to take the combined rushing and receiving in case they bottle him up. And he just does a lot of work through the air. But I still like the 49.5 as well. I think that's over at PointsBet. AJ Brown, he's just, I'm not breaking any news here with AJ Brown, but the Dolphins have really struggled. I think that Devontae Smith is going to bounce back as well, but this is a top 10 matchup in terms of receiving yards allowed to wide receiver position, the fantasy points. Of course, it does make sense. A lot of teams playing from behind against Miami, they're chucking the football. I think the Eagles will go back to their true identity and try to run the ball, kill the clock, long extended drives, which we have seen from the Birds this season. But AJ Brown just continues to eat. He's got 5+ grabs in every single game but one. He is number 1 in terms of air yards, target share. He has got 4 games in a row with at least 125 receiving yards. If he has 125 receiving yards again, he'll tie Calvin Johnson. And what's the last time we've seen him, right? Megatron. It's been a long time since we've seen a wide receiver have 5 straight games of 125 more receiving yards. So I'm in on the catches, 5.5, and I'm in on the over 80.5. I think, it's hard to say that he's going to get 125 again, but I do believe he's going to be a big part of the offense. And, if they can't slow down Miami, they're going to have to chuck the football. And you can throw on the Dolphins. Should be a really fun game, right? Tua and Jalen Hurts, former teammates. And both of these quarterbacks inside the top 5 in QBR, pass completion of 50+ yards, and yards per attempt over the last 2 years. And Tua has the best of Jalen in those categories. And man, they both really grade out in our advanced statistics as just deep ball throwers, extremely accurate there. DK Metcalf, we have DK Metcalf for over 70 yards. I think this is a misprice in our projections. Excuse me. He was limited in practice yesterday. I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he's cleared this number in 3 of his last 4 games. This is a low one here. Arizona inside the top 10 in receiving yards allowed and catches to the wide receiver position. And we talked about Geno a little bit earlier about how this is a potential bounce back spot for Geno Smith and company. So actually the second most passing yards allowed to the quarterback position overall, and 9 passing touchdowns, and the second most yards per game to a wide receiver. So maybe we see Geno hook up with DK, and I got a touchdown prop a little bit later on there for him. Rashee Rice, the Chargers are allowing the most fantasy points to wide receivers, 7.7 yards per attempt to quarterbacks, which is the second highest mark in the NFL. They can't stop anybody. We finally saw Brandon Cooks have a decent game last week, and Dak have a good one, and credit to the Cowboys, but I think that was more on the Chargers. And then Gabe Davis here over 35.5 receiving yards. We have him for over 60 receiving yards in our projections as well. And that's just, he's had a big season. He's kind of like a big A-Doc guy. He struggles with some drops, but what we know about Bill Belichick is that he takes the opposing team's top player away. At least he limits them a little bit. Randall likes the under on Stephon Diggs. I think it's 80.5 receiving yards. To me, I just feel like I'll stay away from that prop and I'll dive into like the secondary option for Josh Allen, and that is Gabe Davis. And I like him to score too. He's got touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 games. There's been a little bit of inconsistency in terms of the yards, 32, 92, 35, 61, 100, and then 21. But this spot here, I really do like it for Mr. Gabe Davis. And then Hollywood Brown there, I think we saw the 4.5 catches. We had him as a start, Hollywood. And, it was a bit of a dud game from him last week, but like the spot against Seattle, they have struggled against wide receivers, the second most fantasy points allowed there to the position overall. And I really like the usage for Hollywood. 10 targets, 7, 10, 10, 11. Back-to-back games, only 4 grabs. But I mean, if you're going to get 10 to 11 targets a game, this is something that I'm going to take every single week. So if you just look overall at receiving yards allowed to the wide receiver position, Arizona and Seattle both are top 10 marks here. So there's an opportunity for DK, maybe for Tyler Lockett. I'm not crazy about JSN. He is coming off one of his better games. Sometimes see these rookies, pick up the playbook a little bit coming out of the bye. So it's possible, but I'm just going to go with Hollywood there at over 4.5 receptions. And here's some touchdown props that I have for you guys. We're going to get, I'm going to send the okay here to PropGod, and he's going to jump in here in a second. We'll have some more picks and we'll answer some of your questions. These are some players that I'm feeling for touchdowns. I really like Ken Walker, but he's like minus 150. So I didn't want to give anything that we have to pay a little bit of juice for. So Raheem Mostert, use the prop shop to get the best possible number. I'm not sure off the top of my head where these books are from. We do put the book in the bet tracker, but when you search using the prop shop, link inside the description of the video, you're going to get the best possible number, save you a lot of time and some cash there. So Mostert, and just what is the high total game, 52, 53 in some spots. I think we'll see Mostert find the end zone this week. It could be a receiving yard touchdown. It could be a rushing touchdown. I mean, what he has done this season is unbelievable. So 11 touchdowns. He's got 11 touchdowns. It's week 7. He's got 9 on the ground. There's only one game this season where he hasn't found the end zone, and that was week 4 in Buffalo against the Bills. He's got 2 receiving touchdowns as well. Brian Robinson Jr., a really good spot for Brian Robinson Jr. to get right. The last couple of weeks have been really tough for him. 6 for 10, 10 for 31. I did have a receiving touchdown last week. He's got 5 total touchdowns on the season, but this is a Giants top 10 matchup for him on the ground. He is the goal line back. I don't think the Giants will push the pace to where we see Antonio Gibson, because sometimes Brian Robinson Jr. can get game scripted out of a game, and we see a little bit of Antonio there. I think what we will see is like 14 plus carries for Brian Robinson Jr. Sam Howell moving the ball here on the young corners. I don't think we'll see much from Jahan Dotson, but it can't get worse for last week. Terry McLaurin's in a really good spot as well. We like him. He's actually has one of the better matchups according to our wide receiver quarterback matchup tool. If you wanted to sprinkle on him against Adoree Jackson's inside the top 3 in terms of corners this week and allowing yards per route run covered. Cooper Kupp, there's one book out there that gives you plus 110. Why not? AJ Brown, plus 120 in the high total game. Really good spot. You hear me say that a lot. Really good spot. But these guys are in good spots. I don't think I need to go into DK Metcalf anymore. We talked about Arizona, and how they've struggled against wide receivers. And the same thing can be said with the Chargers this week as well, as we got Rashee Rice, a couple long shot ones here in the last 4. Even though Gabe Davis has got a ton of touchdowns, plus 290 is a really good price. Rashee Rice, I think people just like Rashee Rice, and he's kind of trending up. The plus 240, I feel like maybe it should be a little longer than that. And Latavius Murray, we had a little sprinkle last week on Lat at 4-1. It didn't work out, but I don't think we'll see Damian Harris in this game. And what we know is James Cook is a between the 20s type of runner, and Latavius Murray gets some of the goal line work. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns on the season, and he's coming off a season high 12 carries and 45 rushing yards last week. And we have the Bills as nearly 10-point favorites in a game where I think that they will handle New England. And then we have Jameson Williams there as like a long shot. I'm still not comfortable playing Jameson Williams overall in my fantasy leagues, even though there's a few teams on bye this week. He had another game with 3 targets, 2 grabs, but he had 53 receiving yards and a touchdown. He is, if you followed him over the course of his career, he's a big play waiting to happen. This guy really, he only has 8 games, 5 grabs, but he has 2 touchdowns, and they're very similar, right? And he scored a lot of 50-yard touchdowns in college. He's going to score a lot of 50-yard touchdowns in the NFL. And what we know right now is there really isn't a ground game to speak of with David Montgomery out of this game. Gibbs could play. Got Craig Reynolds, who popped up in the injury report. I think if the Lions are going to beat the Ravens, it's going to be a lot like last week. Lost David Montgomery early in that game, and it was a lot of Jared Goff with his arm beating the Bucs, and so we could see a couple shots. I think we will see 1 or 2 shots from Jameson Williams. It's just the volume doesn't seem to be there at the moment, so it's really tough to trust him in fantasy. PropGod is in the house. He's in the green room. Give me the thumbs up. You ready to rock, dude? Yeah. Can we bring him in, George?
Yes,
Here
sir.
we go. Yes, sir. At _PR0P on the Twitter machine. Always crushing it for us over at FTM Bets. Welcome in, dude. How are you doing?
What's going on, bro? We got the ad name right this time. That's already a better start, you know?
Let's go. I deserve that chirp. Yeah, we got.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Maybe a lot of times the latter on this show, but we do what we can. What do you think of last night, Jags and Saints? Any takeaways?
Man, so going into it when I did my trenches, the spaces, the preview, I kind of said I thought the expectation was people probably would think it would be an ugly game, which is why the total was low too. We soared over that. It could have been more if it wasn't so many wasted Saints opportunities.
No,
Derek Carr in the red zone is I don't want to. I called him Stevie Wonder. I don't want to mess with the blind, but it's pretty sad what he does in the red zone, bro. Over the last 3 seasons, it's really disgusting. He's bottom 5 in the league. But as far as from the betting perspective, we were profitable with FTN and on Twitter, so it was dope.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Olave let us down, but we had Kirk here on the show for 4.5. We had Alvin Kamara. I mean, he just gets a bunch of checkdowns, right, from Derek Carr. We saw it over the past couple of years. You mentioned the red zone struggles. Yeah, they're just pathetic. And also, like Taysom Hill, they're just not even trusting. When you have Taysom Hill near the 5, why not just give it to him? Because Derek Carr
on that last possession, you don't give him the ball at all. But you don't let Taysom Hill get any touches with the game on the line. I mean, he got you into the end zone. Derek Carr couldn't even get them into the end zone. What was it? The previous drive, I want to say it was. Yeah. And then you don't even let Hill touch the ball. So,
yeah, it's really tough to watch the Saints. The defense is solid. They've been creating turnovers all year, but they just can't get any offense. And all I heard in the offseason was, Derek Carr is finally going to have a top 10 defense. If he had the defense with the Raiders over the past couple of years, maybe they would have been able to make some noise, but we're not seeing the same Derek Carr, with Devontae Adams as we are seeing. And, Olave just missing there, but I think the process was right. Double-digit targets for him. He's somebody that, will continue to attack in the receiving yard game moving forward, despite Derek Carr. All right, what do you
did you speak on Calvin Ridley yet? Because remember I asked you about him, and now I'm ready to just ship him off, man. I'm tired.
I did mention him this morning. He was earlier. It's definitely one of the bigger takeaways for me in the game is just another dud game from him, right? He's nowhere to be found. It's a lot of Kirk. I told people, you own him. I own him in spots, but it's a bad time to sell. I mean, it's the highs and the lows, right? People see it on primetime. They see the drops that he's had. It's all the Kirk show. Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. I don't know. What would you take? Are you willing to just get him off your roster? I'm out. Just give me.
No, see, something. I wouldn't. I'm not just going to give him away for nothing because it's still the potential there, So, I did pick up Olave in a trade over the weekend, but I didn't start him yesterday. So, he didn't do much. So, I didn't miss out on anything. I still got in that league. I got Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, and Ayuk starting, so I'm fine with that. But I got Olave, and I might use him as a trade piece. To be honest, bro, it just really depends. I'm a running back thin. But we could talk about some fantasy later. But I'm tired of really. But I'm not just gonna drop him for nothing.
No, you can't. Right? You got to. I think you be patient. You hope that there's a game or two. And then that's the time to potentially move on. But he does have a high ceiling. We've seen it a couple times. Certainly week 1 was what we saw from week 1. I'm like, all right, here we go. This is the Calvin Ridley season. Let's go. But it's not the case. PropGod, I went over a couple of my favorite props, a couple touchdown calls a little bit earlier on. Do you have a prop or a pick or maybe a game you're looking forward to seeing this weekend?
Yeah, I'm tweeting out the link real quick to the show. But I saw some of your looks. We're kind of aligned. He was really betting on himself. My first look, I'll go with is something I locked in last night. Michael Mayer, the tight end for the Raiders, over 20.5 receiving yards. I'm kind of buying. I hope I'm buying his peak. I drafted him in fantasy earlier in the year. I dropped him, and now he's sitting on waivers. I might pick him up because I only have Goddard as my starting tight end. So I think Mayer his flash, his potential now, and hopefully the offense sees him for who he is. His receiving yards are at 20.5 on DraftKings, BetMGM, and Caesars. We got him projected for 24.9, so we got a little bit of an edge there. And I mean, he's coming off it the best game of his young career last week, and over the last 2 weeks, he's covered his number easily. So the Bears have struggled against tight ends all season, so I just think 20.5 is a bit too low. It might be a big Josh Jacobs game as well, but the Bears defense hasn't been that bad against the run. It may, on the surface, you would think you could do anything you want to the Bears, but we haven't seen running backs really shred them over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a good call. I picked him up in a deeper format. I'm going to play him this week over Higbee. Higbee probably has a higher ceiling, but the past couple weeks, like ever since Cooper Kupp came back, that's it, man. It's
like Higbee is
and it's
no more. Yeah.
So. Yeah, and Tutu is not, those are two tough guys to start, and it's just been Nakua and Kupp. So 'tis the season for a little Michael Mayer. But yeah, he is coming off 57 of 70 snaps. As you mentioned, 5 grabs, 75 receiving yards. It's a really good spot. Inexperienced quarterback, I suppose. If it is Brian Hoyer, he's not too inexperienced. I don't know what's going on there officially.
Right. I was just about to say, I don't know who's going to be, Hoyer or O'Connell. I would rather
Hoyer. I would rather Hoyer, to be honest.
Me too, especially for Meyer, because O'Connell didn't even look Meyer's way when he started. Right. It was all Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. So
it does sound like it will be Hoyer, but it's nothing totally efficient there.
What do you think about that game? Because I don't know if I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, but I feel like the Raiders could beat the Bears. Like, I mean, the 3. I don't want to lay the 3. I was thinking of just taking the money line while it's still playable, minus 135. What are your thoughts on it?
I think the Raiders are going to win. It's a really ugly game, right? And it's a tough one to kind of handicap. But the Raiders have shown me a little bit more, this season. I know the Bears had a couple really nice games, but just not having Fields, sit this one out is really tough. And the Raiders got some players that can get after the quarterback and make life, tough for the undrafted quarterback. So I lean
he's going to live in the backfield
right. Don't you agree? I'm totally with you there. So imagine it's going to be a really tough spot for him. That the 3 is hard to lay. I think like you said, I think I would just jump in on the money line right now while it doesn't get too steep and they pull off. There's a couple of these ugly games where I'm having troubles deciding on which, like Las Vegas and Chicago, Green Bay and Denver. That's a matchup that's tough. I like the Bucs at home. I feel like Atlanta. Over the past couple of years, they're a better football team at home as opposed to on the road. I just don't really trust Ritter if that game gets down to the wire.
I can't trust Ritter with any of my money, but I do have a look in that game if we pivot that way.
Sure. Let's do it.
My next look is going to be I caught in FTN. I caught Bijan Robinson receiving yards at 21.5. I want to say that maybe the lowest has been all season. I don't know what it was in week 1, but it's just way too low. And the books
9.5 week 1, I think.
It was 9. Oh,
that's one that I
I wish I would have caught that. You caught that?
Yeah.
That was a steal. But we got him projected. I want to say for 35. Let me pull him up real quick. Right.
I don't think we've ever had him lower than 30 over the past couple weeks.
We got him projected for 37 with a 7.4% edge. So when the model loves it, I love it too. But the books have adjusted to over 25.5. I like that too. It just, he's always involved in our offense. You look at the routes he's running, the targets he's getting, especially for the running back position. I just don't see how he stays. I think if it's anything 30 and below, I'll take the over with Bijan every week. So that'll be my next look. But back in Ritter, like to win a game, I can't do or spread.
I know I can't either. And you know what? It's the past couple weeks have been better for Kyle Pitts. He's got back-to-back games, double-digit fantasy points. He scored last week. London's getting involved. Jonu's been sneaky, decent. So he's throwing a little bit more. But you're right. I can't trust him either, man. Like on the road against the Bucs, I actually like this defense. I think they still got some decent players on the squad defensively, from when they won their Super Bowl. But Robinson, 26 grabs, 189 receiving yards. He doesn't have a rushing touchdown yet. Too much Algier in the red zone for my liking, but he does have a couple receiving touchdowns from the red zone as well. A couple, that he hauled in from Ritter. So I like that. I think you missed earlier. I had some props. I don't know what you think. I'm not going to dive into it too much. I gave the analysis early, but I don't have Mostert on this board as a receiving yard, but PointsBet opened up at 10.5 yesterday, and I
I
jumped on
caught 10.
that. And
Oh yeah, I caught 10
now I
and a
see
half on
15
FanDuel last night.
Did you? Yeah.
11 p.m. last night. It was 10 and a half minus 118.
10. Yeah. So you got it a little bit earlier than me. I think I got minus 125, minus 130, but I was like, I don't care. I'm still jumping on this one right now because he could do that in like one catch or so. How do you feel like that Eagles and Dolphins game is going to go this week? That's a game of the week, man.
And oftentimes we don't get the game of the week where it actually lives up to the hype. But I do think this matchup has the potential, especially if Philadelphia doesn't get healthy on the defensive side. So I think Slay has been practicing and Jalen Carter as well. So that'll be a big plus for them. Leaning aside, man, I see a lot of sharps are liking the Eagles. I think it's a big test for the Dolphins. I lean as far as the side, I lean the Dolphins plus the 2.5. But I think this one really is props galore. I heard you speaking on AJ Brown right before I came up with a chance to tie Calvin Johnson for 125 yards straight. What is it? Would it be 5 straight games?
Yeah.
I mean, I like his receiving yards. The model, we have him and Tyreek Hill projected to go over. So Tyreek Hill are we going to bet on like receiving yards because there's no value, bro. The receptions will be the only thing I would even look at. You got AJ Brown over 5.5. I love that. He's had at least 5 in every game this season. DK Metcalf, I got him in fantasy. I love 56.5 is low for DK. What?
Right? I thought so too. We have him in our projections for I think 80. I double check here for Metcalf. I mean, it's a really good spot against Arizona in the secondary there. They've given up a lot of fantasy points and receiving yards to the position. We have Metcalf for 72.2 receiving yards. So it's a pretty big edge there. And I think it's like mid 50s across the board. And Hollywood's been, he only has 4 catches, I think, in like 2 straight, but the double-digit targets in like 4 games. I think the volume has been there, so I'm leaning with that one. I'm with you on Hill. Like, it's just even Kupp, like putting in Kupp at 90 felt a little weird, but it just seems to be a walking 100 receiving yards. So I take that and I move on. But yeah, that Eagles, I lean with you. I'm not like I'm an Eagles guy, and I just be straight up and honest about it. Like, they're struggling. They are struggling inside the red zone. Yeah. They're struggling to, find their identity with the new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. They're struggling they just struggle. What Miami does well with like guys in motion and some bunch concepts, they just struggle with those concepts. At least I've seen that dating back to last year. And even in the Super Bowl, they just can't figure that out. So I think they're going to have their hands full, although they can get some pressure on Tua. It's offensively that I'm a little bit concerned with their offense. I think it will live up to expectations, but I lean Miami to pull off the win. But you're right. A lot of people seem to be on Philadelphia at home.
Yeah, and I think that if you're going to attack Philadelphia, it's been through the air recently, which is a bit surprising compared to, well, like you said, the defense. Did you say the defense struggled a bit towards the end of last season? Or were you talking about the offense? Oh, you said defense,
no.
I
thought the defense. Yeah, I thought. Yeah. I mean. They were the best in terms of pass DVOA. They were fine. But I thought, even though they got pressure and they had a lot of sacks and things like that, and it's easy to say like they lost to the Chiefs and Mahomes, great. But they when they were running in motion in the red zone, they struggled. And to start the season, I think that Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones looked good in that game. They've already had a couple 300-yard passers against them already so far this season. And I get it. They played good defensively, but this is a true test, man. They struggle in the middle of the field, and it's just what I see. Like, don't play press against Tyreek, because when you say play press against Tyreek Hill 1-on-1, he will burn Bradbury. Bradbury can't keep up speed.
He wouldn't have no chance.
No. You have another prop or two you want to get to, or we'll answer some of these starter sit questions if you want to.
I got one more look since you mentioned Cooper Kupp. I bought low on Puka Nacua. His receptions at 4.5. When is the last time we seen that? It was minus 150 last night. It's going to be long gone. It's probably that's juice I really don't like playing minus 150. That's my cutoff point. But for a guy like him, I mean, his rapid participation is still there. The targets are there. He dropped the touchdown last week, so I think he's still going to be involved, and it'll be when you got guys like Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams, the defense is gonna focus on them. And a guy like Nakua, I think it's the perfect bounce back opportunity for him. I almost bought the juice on Tutu Atwell. His receiving yards are at 20.5. He can get that in one catch. But I'm like, I'll just go with Puka for now for the bounce back. So that was on DK last night. Over 4.5 receptions at -150.
Nice. Yeah, don't sleep on Puka. No way. I still see some 150s out there. Some books are like -165, -179. So you did get up on it pretty early. I'm fine with that too. You know, even if you want to put it into like a 2-leg parlay or something with somebody else at maybe a similar price, but don't ignore Puka. And I've seen a couple more red zone looks from him too, right? With all the attention on Cooper Kupp, that's what you're going to see. Let's say what up to the crew here. Maybe we can get a couple starter sit questions for the people. We got Lou Testa in the house. Happy Friday to you, good sir. And then what we saw earlier from Kyle Woods, what injured knee, right? Trevor Lawrence
he
didn't
ran
look like
all over them.
running all over the field.
Bro, Chris, have you been seeing it's a lot of value in rushing yards for quarterbacks this season? Derek Carr's rushing yards were at 1.5. He covered it on the first drive. Even if it was going to be a kneel down situation, if they would have won, he got about 8 yards on that first carry. He still would have covered you over. I took Herbert against the Cowboys, but the lines for the quarterbacks are a bit too low this season.
Well, we talked about that last week, didn't we? When you jumped on Thursday night, we had Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
We talked about both of those guys, right? And it took a little bit for Russ to get there, but he certainly did. I wonder if Hurts is going to run a little bit more if there's no Lane Johnson, because he was pressured more last week than he ever was in his NFL career, including like all the playoff games. And Lane Johnson's a guy that has allowed like 3 pressures, no quarterback hits in 2-3 seasons. And Driscoll came in and all of a sudden Jalen was just running for his life. And it was a season high for him in terms of rushing yards. To see 43.5, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's running around a little bit. But it's those other quarterbacks, those lesser name guys that you mentioned that are just, you see the 6.5, you see the 9.5, and you see more scrambles, with some of these quarterbacks.
Did you see Russ this week? Because last week I think you took the rush yards. I took the rush attempts at 3.5. He's all the way up to almost 30 yards rushing now. So I'm done with that prop.
They've caught on. The 18.5 is no longer around there. Maybe we'll take a look at a couple other ones here. Jay's in the house. He said it wasn't boring for us who started Kamara in PPR leagues. Yeah, double-digit.
I got a guy in my league. He is 1-5, and I tried to trade him for Kamara, and he told me I was trying to take the best player he had left. Bro, your season's over already, though. I'm trying to help me now. So I wish I could have got him, man, but
you got to pick on your league mates when they're down in the basement. It is what it is, right? They can't afford any more losses. Yeah, give them a couple players and improve your squad, or against Kamara, is what Lou says. Daily Handle, good afternoon, means happy Friday to you and everybody here. Cardinals money line upset. I don't know if I'm digging that one, but if there's an upset, I know Miami's not big of one. It's on the plus side. How do you feel about Detroit going into Baltimore? Is this a trap? The Lions?
Man, bro, I can't wait to watch this one. I'm probably going to watch this one from start to finish. I got Sunday ticket, but I think I'm a key in on this one. I think it's some good value on the props too. I know there's some weather concerns though, but I think this is the test for Detroit. If Detroit goes into Baltimore and gets this win, do you think they're the best team in the NFC, or do you still got San Francisco?
I still would have San Fran, but no, I still would have San Fran, but I would put Detroit. It would put Detroit over Philly for me. I mean, I think they're right there. And I believe they're 5-1 to win the conference. And they're cooking. They're just one of 2 teams right inside the top 5 in total DVOA. Offensively, defensively, I thought they won a game last week, without Montgomery, using Jared Goff's arm. And this is the one, like you said, I total agreement with you. I like the Lions +3, and I like them to pull off the upset. I think that they're that good. And I'm not impressed with the Ravens offensively. Lamar is clearly a game changer, but
they're still asking him to do everything, bro.
Everything. I haven't seen anything outside of Zay Flowers, the rookie wide receiver. Like Mark Andrews had a couple moments, but OBJ, Bateman, Aguilar is playing over both of those guys. I don't think they'll have success running the football against that Lions defense, like 3.2, 3.4 yards per carry. So Gus and Hill, I would be looking for other options. Lamar's going to get in Lamar's face. Oh, yeah. He's going to be running around. And I think that Goff and company, it's second game in a row on the road. Baltimore is that true test. You're right. But And if they win and Goff is good, the MVP number is going to be gone. I don't know if you think he's legit in the conversation.
I was about to say I just traded for Goff in fantasy. So I'm starting him this week too.
The matchups down the stretch, dude, are phenomenal.
And that's what I was going to ask you. If they win this game, who else could they lose to in the schedule? They could be a 13, 14 win team.
Absolutely, they can. And the Niners have a couple of tougher tests. I mean, they're going to play Philly, but look at this schedule. They got the Raiders next week at home. They got the Chargers in LA, but in a dome. It's Detroit fans will travel decently.
They're going to light that
one.
Secondary up. He's going to light
Absolutely.
them up.
Then they got Chicago at home. Then they got Green Bay at home. Then they're in New Orleans again in a dome. Then they're in Chicago week 14. That's like the one game that Goff doesn't have remaining on the schedule that's not going to be in a dome. Look at the home and away splits for Goff over the last 2 years. They're significant. And then week 15 at home against Denver, week 16 in Minnesota again, dome, and then week 17 in Dallas, dome. So I'm not even sure what the week 18 final is, but that's a lot of decent matchups. So maybe jump on Goff and the Lions now to come first in the conference. Might not be a bad sprinkle.
Bro, because I could see Dallas being a fight. The Chargers, I'm still not sold. I think Herbert, that hand definitely was bothering him on Monday Night Football. Oh, yeah. Who else? I forget who else. Those two that stuck out to me the most as far as if it was a game they could lose, okay, maybe those two. But the rest of them, I feel like a win for sure. The Raiders for sure. The Bears for sure. The Packers, again, for sure. I think they'll sweep the Bears. And I took Detroit to win the NFC North before the season. So I'm pretty happy.
Good call. Yeah, you should be. 20-1 I'm seeing for Goff, whether you believe it or not. If all I'll say is that if they win this game and he has a good game, that 20-1 will be gone. You won't see it anymore. Just like when we talked about Brock Purdy a couple weeks ago when it was like 24 and then that one climbed and maybe an opportunity to bounce back into Purdy. But we'll probably go another 5-10 minutes here. A couple more questions from you guys if you have them for this week. Mr. Nice Guy, welcome in. Always want to say what up to the crew. These ones are tough. Kyle Singer in the house. Trade Lamar for Tyreek.
No,
I mean I would keep Lamar. He's a game changer at the quarterback position. You have a top 5 quarterback. There's a lot of bad quarterback play around.
Yeah.
But, if you had, again, if you have a...
I got Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to have Tyreek Hill. If you had you must have somebody else at the quarterback position that you feel okay with rolling out the rest of the season. Maybe it's a Kirk Cousins. I don't love him this week, but maybe you have a borderline top 10 quarterback. I would consider it then
at all without Jefferson.
I think he'd be okay even without Jefferson. They just pass so much. But I don't like him this week against San Fran. I wouldn't touch it. Spread bets. What do you got here? You got Giants, Carolina, Denver, New England Falcons. Mr. Nice Guy's telling us who he likes on the spread. And
Denver Falcons.
Carolina, I don't even think is playing.
I think they got a bye.
Yeah. Mr. Nice Guy, we're on different sides this week. I'll tell you that one. I have Mitchell and Case, so that's good. If you have CMC, I have Mitchell and Case. I think Mitchell was on a snap count last week, so I think we'll see a little bit more of him over.
Is that why? Because I was wondering why wasn't Mitchell on the field much last week? Okay,
and it's just speculation on my part, but I do believe coming off the injury and just seeing what I've over the past couple of years with Mitchell. That I feel like that's why. Can we finally say Kirk is the wide receiver one? And Jack, I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
yeah, we can finally say that one.
And they keep Kirk's. He keeps throwing over his props every week too. Evan Ingram as well. I've been making a lot of money with Evan Ingram.
Oh man, he's one of the better tight ends in the NFL. I view him as kind of like a wide receiver. We got Ayuk against Minnesota or Watson full PPR. I think I would go Ayuk here. I like Christian Watson. It's a good spot against Denver. But I trust Purdy and the Niners offense to bounce back here. And for Brendan Ayuk, maybe no Debo, maybe no CMC. And if those guys play, maybe not a full go. So we like the matchup against Minnesota.
Yeah, look into that history of Ayuk or Debo. Whenever the other is out, they go crazy. And then it's a perfect matchup against Minnesota. And it's prime time Monday night. I would go Ayuk.
Any confirmation on if Zack Evans will start for the Rams on Sunday? I don't know if they'll name a starter. I think
he didn't sound too convinced on them in the press conference.
No, I know. And then they're bringing in other guys, right? Royce Freeman, Henderson. So there seems to be a lot going on there. KJ, we talked yesterday about some start and sits. I dove into Evans. I actually would play Evans over the Ravens backs or the Arizona backs, but it's a very risky start. I have him roughly running back 30, so like a flex play at best. I think he will get the bulk of the touches and the snaps because he's been at least in the system for a little bit, but I don't think they love him too much, man, because they were playing Ronnie Rivers over him, right?
Yeah, so
and there you
picked him
go.
up on waivers, but I don't know if I'm going to start him because I got a better option. What do you think about real quick the Bears? Would you start Foreman again? Because it looked like Roshan was not going to play. So
I know man, tough. That's like
concussion.
Still can't get out of protocol,
for 2
man.
weeks.
Yeah, and they played a Thursday night football game a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I would, even though it wasn't a super great day. But what do you have? 14, 15 carries for 50 yards. Like that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Like the Arizona backfield, the Rams backfield, even this Ravens one against the Lions. It's just really tough to trust anybody there. I traded Ridley before the game, moved him and Rice for Ayuk. Yeah, I mean, I like Rice trending up.
Nice. Yeah, I like Rice in the future for sure.
Yeah, it almost feels like you could have. I mean, Ridley's been so bad, so maybe you couldn't do Ridley for Ayuk. You probably definitely could have did that one a couple weeks ago. That's a good one. I like that one for you. Didn't want to lose Rice, but have Olave, Godwin, and Nakua still, so you're in a good spot.
Oh, so you're fine.
Jeff,
yeah.
What do you think about this Miami backfield? If you had Jeff Wilson, I mean, Ahmed's been talked about as a desperation flex play. I don't think Wilson's going to be too involved if he plays.
No, I don't think so either. I have Mostert, so I'm not worried at all until Achan comes back.
Man, Mostert. There's another fantasy MVP.
Yes.
Craig Reynolds, expectations, man, they got to be pretty low. Is Gibbs locked in?
He just said that they need Gibbs to carry the bulk of the load. He said he wanted to like slowly get him back in there after the injury, but he said honestly we're going to need him. So I mean, he was just quite frank about it. That was about an hour ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see that now. I'd like to say we'll be careful with him, but the reality is we need him. So we'll go as far as he can take us, and he's ready to go. So, Craig popped up on the injury report this week. I know he was a quote unquote sneaky little waiver wire pickup, but yeah, I would try to stay clearly of him if you can. I don't think the touches will be too significant.
I got a prop I want to ask you about. I've been looking at it since yesterday. I haven't pulled the trigger. It's Detroit. I think he's been flying under the radar, though. Josh Reynolds, his receiving yards at 35 and a half.
Yeah.
35 and a half, bro. He's over in 5 out of 6. Did he even play against Atlanta?
You know what? He was active, but he wasn't on the field. That was the only time he burned me this week. Okay. An injury popped up for him midweek. I thought he was good to go, and he was out there running routes. I was shocked. He was out there running some routes, but he didn't get any looks. He didn't have a target in that game, and he spent a little bit on the sideline. But, man, him and Goff, I'm sure you know this, these guys go back to the Rams days, man. Like, that's kind of his boy. Started off strong last year before the injury. We've been jumping on Josh Reynolds. What'd you say it was? It's been in the 30s.
It's 35 and a half. And listen, and get this. His receptions are at 2.5 for plus money.
Oh, man.
So I was torn on, like, do I want to just put a half unit on both or go full unit on both? Because I'm going to watch the game anyway. But I just think it's too low.
I think it's too low, too. I mean, he's had 3 grabs in every single game.
His receiving yards this season, 80, 66, nothing against Atlanta with the injury. Green Bay, 69, 76 against Carolina, 50 against Tampa Bay. 35 and a half?
I dig it. Yeah, I'm in on that one. I would probably do a full unit on both, and you can have some fun. Bet365. I know some people do some same game parlays. They correlate. I mean, it could go wrong. You know, you can get the 0, but if he gets 3 grabs, he's going to get 40 receiving yards roughly.
Exactly.
So you can get both on the one bet there. I would go with Musgrave the rest of the season, although it may be worth kind of stashing. I mean, 2 rookie tight ends there. I've seen the first read most of the year. I know that Doubs and Watson have been kind of in and out. The first read, according to some of our statistics, has been Musgrave for Love there this season. T-Bag agrees. Says
hopefully Aaron Jones is back in his bag, because I've been waiting on him to come back, man. And the offense hasn't looked the same since week 1, really, with him.
No, it has not at all. Man, I'm struggling real hard in terms of an RB. I drafted Connor and Saquon, but both of them are super injury prone. I picked up Jeff Wilson, McLaughlin, and Zack Evans, but they aren't startable yet. No, I guess not. Singletary is available. Oh, do you guys think his potential will be RB1? It's a good question. He's been one of the hot waiver wire pickups. He did play more snaps than Pierce last week, but I don't think he's going to fully take over. I think that may be an outlier. I think Singletary has showed enough over the past couple weeks that maybe it turns into a 60-40, but I like him more than the other options that you have. Jeff Wilson's maybe a potential game changer for you, but a chance going to come back. Still have Mostert. I think Singletary probably has the highest ceiling out of the other guys that you mentioned. Like Zack Evans is just a short-term play. McLaughlin is just, man, that P. Ryan's healthy and he's going to play this week too. So I think Singletary has a chance to maybe be not an RB1 in Houston, but maybe a worthy of a flex play moving forward. I mean, the O-line's getting a little bit healthier in Houston, but some really tough efficiency games for Damian Pierce. He's had a lot of touches, but not doing a lot with them.
Yeah, he's in a sophomore slump.
Got offered a trade where I receive Hawkinson, Rashad White, and Jordan Love, and I give up Laporta, Algier, and Kyler. Full PPR Superflex. Do you think Kyler plays this year?
Yeah, I just picked him up 2 days ago. They say he's on track to play in week 8 or 9. You haven't seen he's been practicing this week.
But I just have this feeling that Arizona will just say, you know what?
Just let him sit.
We're not ruining the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, bud.
Oh,
I don't know. I just have this weird feeling. Yeah, he's Caleb struggled too the past couple of weeks. I think that I don't know. I just had this bold take that Kyler would be a Falcon next year, or probably not a Steeler. Just like it's a new regime, new GM, new coaching staff. If he's ready to go week 8 and 9 and they just have one win, like they don't you think they could? There? Maybe they if they say no, then that the writing would be on the wall.
Yeah.
You're not the franchise quarterback anymore. We'll try to move on from you and we'll draft another guy. But he's definitely worthy of a stash and a pickup because when he's playing, I mean, he's a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. There's really no debate about that. I don't think I would acquire him though. I think I would.
You gotta give up Laporta too. Algier.
I mean, it's kind of a wash at tight end. But I like White more than Algier. And you know what? Kyler's it's just questionable. I don't know. Like, is it worth the risk? You got to have another quarterback. You have to have a second one that you can play until Kyler comes back, or maybe he won't even. I think I may even just hold on to what you have because I don't think Algier's worth my time either. White has been inefficient, but at least he's getting touches.
Yeah, he's getting touches, but he's doing nothing with them, bro.
Yeah. Hey, guys, do you think McCaffrey's going to play or should I start Zack Evans? I would just wait on CMC.
Yeah, you should know.
It's Monday night. You may not know.
Yeah, you might not know.
If you can pick up Mason or Mitchell or put McCaffrey in your flex, pick up Juwan Jennings in case Debo doesn't go, I think it's totally worth waiting for CMC, but you don't want to take a 0. Man, like it would just it would just drive you nuts, George Play 01. Is this George Burner account here? If you played, imagine playing Zack Evans and he had 6 points and then CMC, he's a touchdown per game guy. So really tough. Couple more here and we're going to get out of here. Do I trade McLaurin and Addison for Ayuk? McLaurin doesn't start on my team.
McLaurin and Addison for Ayuk.
You obviously got some good wideouts because you have Terry in your squad.
If you got McLaurin on the bench, Addison is going to have a volume without Jefferson. Do you think Jefferson's even going to come back? He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks?
It'll be on the 6 side of things. It's the same thing. What's the point where we got one win, shut it down, but he may force his hand on the field. I think still won't win football games with them. You know what? I kind of feel like I'd keep the wide receiver depth, to be honest. I know Terry's been very, very frustrating. Would Ayuk make your starting roster then? Like, you got to be loaded. You would plan your bye weeks ahead. Look at your bye weeks. So you're going to need Terry or Addison in certain weeks. Are you going to be in a pinch? But ultimately, having Ayuk on the squad, you're getting the best player in the deal. And, you probably make your wide receiver room a little bit better. But I would look ahead. I kind of lean no, dude. I think I like the wide receiver depth, and things could happen here.
What do you think about Terry versus the Giants, too? He's killed the Giants 4 straight.
Yeah, I love him this week.
Yeah, 107, 93, 105, 70, and he just fresh off of 81 yards last week. So
Yeah,
I would stay put there.
there's a couple starts that I had this week. Some of them are pretty obvious, and others maybe you're questioning, like Javonte Williams or Deontay Foreman. Ramondre had a nice week last week, found the end zone, had a couple of receptions. Zack Evans again, if you're in a pinch, I like Devontae as a bounce back. We talked Hollywood, and for Terry there, Terry's a guy that Adoree Jackson, according to our wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, out of all the corners going this week, he's allowed the third most yards per route run covered. So you just mentioned Terry's is own the Giants, and maybe this is a get right spot for him.
And Washington, they only want to throw the ball this year. It's like the run game is non-existent.
Rice for me. I know that they got back Hardman and he's going to be familiar with the offense, but Rice has got the
Rice is trending towards being the guy in the receiving core. So,
what do you think about this? Get in on Joe Burrow 40-1. He would have to have a massive second half.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah, huge. All those U's is right because it'll have to be very huge.
All those U's are right. I like that one. Do you have anything else before we get out of here? Anything else you want to talk about?
Did you have any thoughts on the Devontae Adams situation, just as far as a fantasy perspective in Vegas? I'm keeping him. I got him. Do you think he'll bounce back against the Bears, or do you think we continue to see him phase out of the offense? Do you think he's going to be traded? Like it's just weird to see 9 targets over the last 2 weeks he's a top 3 receiver to me still. So
me too. I would hang. I think, if he got traded, it would be good news because I think the Raiders are, even though we like a possibility of them winning this week, they're a disaster. Josh McDaniels is a disaster too. And then I think Hoyer would be best Jimmy G would be best for Adams, but I think Hoyer starting this week would be better for Devontae. I know he's really frustrated. He went there to win. He went there to play with his old buddy Carr. Carr's not there anymore. I don't know if the Raiders, I feel like he's on a new team next year. That doesn't help you this year, but I think it's completely blow up mode for Las Vegas in the offseason. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Jacobs is gone, Adams is gone, and McDaniels is fired, and it's just full on rebuild because there's something toxic I think going on. Like they have a really good wide receiver in Hunter Renfrow that they don't use either.
Bro, I don't. They got Carter starting over him now, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be traded by the deadline.
One thing I will say, Jay North, about Burrow, it is not easy for him. Out of the bye at San Fran, then Buffalo, Houston, then in Baltimore, then Pittsburgh. So, yeah, you're right. A lot of
he had to. Man, he's not getting MVP. This is not happening, bro. I'm sorry.
It's not happening. We got one more comment here. My wide receivers are Devontae. Oh, so that was earlier why you wanted to make the trade. Your wide receivers are Devontae Smith. You got Pittman, Addison, Zay, Terry, London. I feel like I have too much depth. I get it. Yeah, you want to move on from a couple of those and have Ayuk in the starting lineup, or maybe get a running back or two. I don't hate it, right? You're starting Smith and Pittman every week, and then Ayuk comes in your lineup, and then you can rotate through Zay and London if you wanted to. Could you move on from London? I would try to. I don't fully.
I would.
Don't
try to get him in that trade.
Yeah.
Hey, a Bengals fan. Okay. That's what it is. All right, man. I apologize, bro. I like the Bengals, though.
I like them, too. They're not out of it. They're not out of a playoff spot just yet, despite the start. I mean, they started off pretty slow as well. Why don't you take the time, man? You got doing any spaces this week or where people can check you out?
So I'm done with spaces for the weekend. I go live on Twitter every Monday and Thursday, an hour before kickoff. In the primetime games, the spaces are called the Trenches. You can follow it at Trenches_NFL. Follow me at Prop. You see the name on the screen. But that's pretty much it. I got nothing going on. I'm pretty much chilling the rest of the weekend. Yeah, that's it.
Nice, man. I love chopping it up with you. Super intelligent. And tonight, any thoughts on the ball games? We got a 2-2 series and a big win from Arizona last night too.
I don't watch college too much, honestly. I watch college.
No, the baseball playoffs.
Oh,
any thoughts
man.
on the baseball?
Bro, I'm so swamped in the NFL. I'm thinking all football. So we got both game. We got both game. What was it? Game 4 for Arizona.
And, they pulled off a win last night in the bottom of the ninth, and then game 5, all tied up at 2.
Just like that, the Rangers are on the ropes, bro. How quick a series can change.
I think they're in trouble. now.
I think it's probably over, bro. Now Montgomery has been good, actually great against Houston, even when he was a Yankee. If they can't win with Montgomery, then it's over. Verlander,
you got to win this one.
Yeah, I think. What do you think about the total? Do you think seeing these pictures again so soon, does it go to the offense's advantage like we usually would cap it, or do you think it's different in this type of series?
Yeah, I think I would go to the advantage of the offense, seeing them pretty quickly. Although you're right, Montgomery has just been a game changer for Texas now since they picked him up. Like immediately, man, he has just been pitching lights out. But I think that these Astros, man, you got to kill them. Because once they start to get a little bit of momentum, I mean, putting Kyle Tucker in the 6th spot there the other night, and just their offense, Abreu was hitting, which he was not really hitting in the regular season to start. So this Astros team, man, they just find ways to win, and I know that's just not great analysis, but they really do. And they got Verlander on the bump today. I think Houston. And I like Arizona to even that up, but I don't think that they're going to win the series because they're going to have to win ball games in Philadelphia, and I just don't think that's possible.
Winning in Philadelphia seems nearly impossible, bro. Like that crowd there is electric, man.
Yeah,
I would look at maybe some hitter props. Marte's been red hot. He's been the entire offense for Arizona when they do produce anything. He had 3 hits yesterday. But I think I probably just enjoy it and watch. I got a lot of interest in this Texas series because I might be moving to Texas in the near future. So
okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna become a Mavs fan?
No. I'm not a Luka guy. So
what? Come on.
I'm a Bucks fan. I'm a Bucks fan. I'm happy right now. We got Dame. So
oh my goodness. Yeah, we're doing NBA betting preview show on Monday. George put Dame on the board, so RIP Dame. But it was like really weird to see him in green, right? It was like, wow, that was just like so strange to see. But yeah,
I had no idea that the Bucks even had a chance of landing him.
Me neither. It just kind of came out of left field. I mean, the Bucks and the Celtics, I think, are at the top of the top in the East.
But that's how it's been in the East anyway, though. It's like
past years.
Philly's been that third cousin. So
yeah,
I think we'll continue to see that.
What's your beef with Luka? Too selfish?
No,
talks too much?
No, I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I really don't even bet on him too much, bro. I don't know. It's nothing like a person like, oh, I hate Luka. It's just like I would never root for the Mavericks though. It's no. It's just
fair enough.
See, I don't just because I'm moving somewhere, I won't root for the team just because like I'm in Arkansas now. I don't root for any Arkansas sports because there's nothing to root for. But
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm up north in Canada on the East Coast. So we have no teams to root for. But I think if I was in an area, maybe I would just play the part for a day or two. But yeah, no reason to jump on the Mavericks bandwagon. I've been on it as a Canadian when Steve Nash went there and they drafted Dirk. So I've actually been a Mavs fan since like the early 2000s. It's been it's been a up and down ride. But it should be highly entertaining. They play to a lot of overs because they can't stop anybody, and Kyrie and Luka can score some points. So they do play to a couple of highly entertaining basketball games, most likely from them again this year.
The ISO Kings, those two.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to PropGod right now. Again, you see it on the screen, but if you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, _PR0P, check out all of his work over at ftnbets.com, crushing it for us as we enter the stretch run, I suppose, in the NFL, near the halfway point for all your fantasy football teams. If you have any questions, you can reach out at Chris Meaney. You can leave a comment inside the description of this video. We will say goodbye to PropGod for now. I'm going to wrap up with a couple picks against the spread. Cheers, dude. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Let's
too,
chop
bro.
it up again soon, brother. All right. Man, good stuff, man. I love chopping up with him. It's been too long. Working together and doing some stuff for us over at FTN. It's just been so long since we've, just got to chop it up with some people sometimes. You see all the work he's putting in every day, the analysis, the picks are super hot fire. Great follow on Twitter as well. So make sure you jump on over to our Twitter machine here on the FTN Network YouTube page, subscribe, reach out to him, ask him some questions because I see him all the time answering questions if you do have them. Quickly on the way out here, we do have a couple picks against the spread. George, did it not? Man, I don't think it popped up for me. Let me just try to find this quick and then we'll get out of here. Here they are. We're loading them right now. I got them. See some people still hanging out. I'm going to timestamp if you're just joining us. I'll timestamp a couple things for you guys for the props and the picks and some from PropGod there as well, and start and sit, which we discussed yesterday. But this is where I'm at for this week. I like the Browns. I like the Browns defense, and we're not breaking any news here, but just this is what the Browns did last week to the Niners. We all like the Niners. We all like Kyle Shanahan. 8 3-and-outs. First time under Shanahan in San Fran. 3.9 yards per play for the Niners last week against Cleveland. The fewest in 63 games with Shanahan in San Fran. 215 total yards. 215 total yards, the fewest in 7 seasons with Kyle Shanahan. And that's clearly going to be an outlier, but this is how good this Browns defense is. It sounds like Watson has a real possibility to playing in this game. I still like the under, as you see, 40.5. I don't think the Colts will have a lot of success moving the football against this Cleveland team. They've dominated the line of scrimmage so far this season. Gardner Minshew did not look good last week. I wouldn't really be playing any Colt except for Pittman and Taylor, hoping that he can get a couple grabs out of the backfield like he did last week. I'm not playing Zach Moss this week. Again, you could be in a tough spot, but I like Cleveland. I have them as a money line play. I wanted to give a couple spreads and some decent money line plays that weren't significantly juiced, but I do have the minus 150 there on Cleveland on the money line. And then Buffalo, I get it's a divisional game. You know, Randall's talking about a divisional game, that high of a spread. Give me New England, but the Patriots haven't shown me anything all year. Nothing. They've been pathetic on offense. I don't know if Mac Jones is going to complete the game. You know, it could be another quarterback that comes in for him. And the Bills last week, prime time against their former offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll. Maybe that had something to do with the struggles. I think Buffalo gets right this week. Josh Allen's going to have a couple touchdown passes. I think the Bills win by 10 to 13 points. I think they win by a couple scores here. I'd take anything -9, -9.5. Excuse me. And then we have Detroit at +3 here. I think that they're live on the money line. We have the Bucks at home. I'm not really feeling this Falcons offense on the road, and I don't really trust Desmond Ridder. So I like this Bucks team to bounce back from a loss last week at home against Detroit to win -136. This is a little bit of juice here. I'm fine with the -3. If it gets 3.5, I may lean Steelers, but I think the Rams win by a field goal here at home. I like Miami as the dog. Again, just the offense from Mike McDaniel. It will be tough for Tua. They're going to be in his face, but, guys in motion. Tyreek Hill can't be stopped at the moment, and the Eagles are just struggling inside the red zone, and offensively they're having some issues. I like the over between Washington and the Giants at 37.5. Miami and Philadelphia at 51.5. And I mentioned the under, and then we have some a money line parlay and a little teaser here. Buffalo 2.5, Detroit +9, Seattle 1.5, San Fran 1.5, or just 1, excuse me, at +225, and then San Fran, KC, Buffalo, and Cleveland on the money line, and that is where I am at. Browns alternate line, PropGod in the house with one more pick there for us. He likes the Browns. Yeah, you could do that one if you wanted. Browns -7, get a little bit more. A little bit more money, a little bit more return there. No NHL. It's just 2 games on the slate. I'll wrap up with a couple NHL stuff here. I don't think that Jack Hughes is hanging around -140 anymore. We had Hughes in the tracker at -140, but he's probably juiced a touch there. I like the Devils to win the hockey game. I like the Devils in the under. Sorokin's a really good goalie. The Islanders offense I'm not really buying into. So I would take the Devils money line and then Jack Hughes shots. And really that's it. It's just a light night in the NHL. I wish the schedule was a little bit better. They go 2 games. They go 1 game, 12 games, 2 games, 12 games, 2 games, 14 games, and then nothing on Sunday. So it's just, I don't really like what we have going on here. So Calgary and Columbus, I would lean to the Blue Jackets as dogs on home ice, and I would lean to maybe Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner 2.5 shots. I'd like Mikhail Backlund 2.5 shots. He's just really juiced at the moment. So maybe you can do a Jack Hughes 3.5, Mikhail Backlund 2.5, Devils to win on the money line, and then I would lean with Boone Jenner if you're looking for like a solo shot prop for him as well. But we're going to get out of here. George, take us out. Good luck, guys, this week in week 7. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.